Have you ever wondered why the narcissist came into your life? Why you've had to go through such devastation, pain, breakdowns, betrayals, the most horrible things that you could imagine? What if I was to tell you that they're not just a destroyer? They totally are. But maybe there was a reason for this. They were also a mirror, and that mirror is showing you exactly what you need to set yourself free, not just from them, but from other things as well. Now, you may feel like initially that this is about victim shaming, and I can assure you that it isn't. It's about healing and thriving. And I really want you to stay with me today because I'm going to share with you how narcissists target hidden shadows in you and how, when you face and shift these and liberate them out, not only do you become unstoppable in your healing from narcissists, but you can actually start manifesting the life that was always yours to live for real. So, hello, Thrivers. I'm Melanie Tonia Evans. I'm the creator of the Quantum Freedom healing modality, and also the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Program, which has helped thousands of people heal for real from over 160 different countries because they were able to release the actual trauma from narcissistic abuse and claim their true lives, their light, their life, their confidence, their health, their self-love, their deservedness, their joy, their gratitude again for life. That was all stripped and taken through narcissistic abuse. And where my recovery work is very, very different from other people talking about narcissistic abuse is I don't just talk about narcissists, I actually make it about ourselves so that you can target and clear the trauma in your body that's causing all the breakdowns in your life, physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and be able to reclaim the life force and the source force that is your true feelings, is your true self, that can recalibrate and come back from this in ways that are not just mere survival, but are actually about thriving. And this is because we literally shift trauma out of the body and then the mind and everything else follows. And this is really, really important because by the time we're adults, the trauma that we've taken on, especially in our formative years, is controlling up to 95% of our life. It's the feelings and the thoughts that we have. It's the people that we're attracted to, the people who are attracted to us, the choices and the patterns that we continually make that keep us stuck in patterns of disappointing, unfulfilling, and even narcissistic relationships. But if we change at that cellular level inside of ourselves, we can change our lives beyond description, no matter how old we are, how broken we are, or how much we have lost. Because we change the hardwiring of the subconscious and we become a new and a different person, which means that we start making different decisions, different choices, different attraction points, and we can rebuild from the ashes in really amazing ways. And the thing is, all of our old programs and our subconscious beliefs that we've taken on, they might have kept us alive and functioning when we were young, but it brings into our life all of the things that we've tried to defend ourselves against our entire life. And we don't transform, we continue breaking down. So transformation begins when we stop obsessing about the narcissist and instead we can turn inwards to heal the exact wounds and traumas that they've triggered within us. So I want you to imagine this metaphor because it actually really helps us understand this. Imagine if you were hit by a car and there were people with you, and they left you bleeding out on the road, chased after the person in the car who's driven off, trying to work out who they are, why they did that, profiling them, and just left you on the road. And this is what we're taught to do in the victim culture. Focus completely on them and what they did to us and forego ourselves and our own healing. As the late and great Pema Chodron so powerfully said, if somebody comes along and shoots an arrow into your heart, it's fruitless to stand there and yell at that person. It'd be much better to turn your attention to the fact there's an arrow in your heart. If we're not focused on our internal wounds and tending to them, then you are doomed to remain stuck in victimization. That's just the truth. And victimization means that you don't have gratitude, you don't have joy, you're hanging on to things like the resentments and the traumas of what's happened to you. And sadly, in quantum terms, victimization works like this. Whatever you're being, you are creating. We're human beings. We're not human deserving thinking or something's going to come along and save me. Whatever the composition of your inner vibration, reality, frequency, emotional, somatic emotional body is doing is exactly what the outer universe brings you. There is no separation. That's what so within, so without means, and it is as absolute as gravity. So we might think that, okay, it's fair for me to hang on to I was a victim, I was victimized. Yes, you were, but hanging on to it and staying in that identity means that you're going to continue to have the identity and the life of a victim. And nobody wants that. That's why we've got to look at a different way to do this. So when you're a victim, it's not going to respond to you trying to think your way out of it, believing and hoping that things are going to get better, or needing justice, hanging on, I'm going to need closure, accountability, or justice before I can move on. If you're not being that state of freedom inside of you and healed up and whole, your outside reality cannot shift. Nothing changes until we change, and we can't change anybody else. And consciousness creates change. And the highest starting point of consciousness is whatever is going on in my life is stuck in my being. And if I change my being, I change my life. Okay, so here's the deal, and we know this. Narcissists horrifically trigger our internal wounds. Every survival program, every gap, every insecurity, every vulnerability, every buried belief about our worth, our value, and our ability to feel emotionally safe and solid inside is magnified with enormous intensity by narcissists. Now, here's why, and I just want you to take a breath and just have an open mind and an open heart here. Narcissists' wounds mirror our own. I'm going to say it again. Narcissists' wounds mirror our own. Now just breathe. And before you think that this is a terrible thing to say, and you might go, Melanie, are you saying I'm a narcissist? The answer is no, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that we live in a universe of like attracts like. So on the surface, it may seem like opposites attract. And yes, polarity plays a role in holding relationships together, much like the positive and the negative charges of a magnet, yet underneath the wounds are the same. So on the top, you have somebody that gives a lot, that is very empathetic. You have somebody who takes a lot, who's not empathetic, somebody who's trying to co-regulate a relationship. You've got a narcissist who is in separation consciousness, and they are just interested in self-regulating their own emotions without taking into consideration or having empathy for yours. On the surface, exactly that's how it's playing out. But underneath it, narcissists and victims of narcissists often come from similar family dynamics, which is emotionally unavailable parents, conditional love, shame, blame, guilt, and the creation, the manifestation in a child of deep feelings of being defective and unworthy and not being valid, valued, or truly seen, not being loved for who you are unconditionally. Who can relate to this? Just say me in the chat if you're going to be honest about this. And it's not so much our parents' fault either. They came from survival programs. They knew no different. They were parented in the same way. It was all about food on the table, roof over their head. You know, mum and dad worked, even if mum was working in the house looking after the kids, and maybe, well, they didn't have the emotional training and they didn't know the necessity of being able to just be with a child and validate them. They're very normal child feelings, not talking them out of them, not telling them they were wrong, validating them and holding them through to completion. Most of us didn't receive that. So, because, children are seen and not heard, or your emotions are an inconvenience, or I don't have time for this, or just get on with it and go out and play, or go get your coloring book, I don't want to hear it, whatever, the child believed on the inside, I'm defective. Because if you don't honor my feelings, you don't see my soul, you don't love me. I am my feelings, I am my emotions, that's me. The other stuff is a persona, that's a performance. The real me is my feelings, and you're not holding that. So most of us didn't have that. Now, for the narcissist who also had that, and there could be neglect, there could be abuse, there could be horrific things, as we know, and the same for the victim of a narcissist. Now, for the person who's become narcissistic in their traits, meaning they self-regulate, they don't do empathy, they separate, it's me versus you, they don't lean in. A narcissist decided that their true self, excuse me, I'm just going to have a sip of tea. Okay, the narcissist, what happened with them is they made an internal decision that their true self and their emotions were too painful and haunting to face. The shame, the defectiveness, they're not getting their needs met. So what happened is Narcissists split, and they created a fictitious self, an idea of themselves, a character in their own mind to buffer against the pain. So this led to a split from themselves. They split from themselves, empathy for themselves, their inner being, their connection to themselves, which means they split from others. And they had the adoption of separation consciousness, which is me versus you. And they're at war with themselves constantly as well. So from there, they keep people at arm's length, never allowing true emotional closeness, because true emotional closeness, first of all, you would see my shame and my defective wound. You would find out that I'm false, and you would reject me. And also too, the messages came from childhood that closeness brings pain and trauma, and therefore I'm not going to do it. So they had to strategize how to control relationships, because the thing is, because they don't feel whole on the inside, they need people, but they need people for different reasons. It's not so much closeness and the validating and the connection that the codependent empath craves. It's more feed my false self, because that's what I'm living through. I need to be acknowledged for superiority. I need to be acknowledged for how intensely I can affect you, for good or bad, because then I exist and I'm superior. So they had to work out ways to get people involved in their lives and keep them connected in their lives. So enticing people, how do I appeal to get from you what I want? This is manipulation that narcissists are very skilled at. They also push away. If you get too close or too intimate to my true inner being, I need to push you away. So I'm going to sabotage you when you get too close. When you need me to show up with emotional intimacy, that's when I'm going to start sabotaging. And retaining supply. Narcissists are very, very clever and very good at understanding how to prey on people's weaknesses, how to trigger them into reactivity, and how to get them trauma bonded so that they can control you, so they can use you for narcissistic supply, and also shift the blame. Because when you're in anxiety and reaction, their internal disowned shame is projected onto you, and they look at you as shameful for the way that you're responding. So that's the splitting, and that created from the same wounds that we've all had. Now, for the victim who's also carrying the wound of being unseen, unmet, not whole on the inside from our childhoods, the approach is different, because we're empaths and we're codependents, and we seek co-regulation rather than separation consciousness. But of course, we've been seeking it with all the wrong people. So the strategy is, the unconscious strategy is, how can I connect to you in a way that will finally make you see that I'm lovable and I'm worthy of your love? How do I get you to love me? How do I get you to validate me so that I can finally feel whole? And how do I prove my worth to you, my love, my loyalty? How do I prove that I'm valuable to you so that you will finally see me, meet me, and love me? Is this relating? Are you getting what I'm saying? So you've got the co-regulating codependent who's in there trying to earn worth and love. And you've got the narcissist who is split from their true self, which you haven't, who is now in a false fictitious character in separation consciousness, trying to regulate the ego to get narcissistic supply. But for both, the sponsoring emotions, the internal wounds are unworthiness and defectiveness. The narcissist believes in their defenses, I don't need anybody, yet is desperately chasing validation to prop up the false self facade of superiority and grandiosity. The victim is yearning to be seen, held, and loved, yet deep down, let's go to a deeper layer here. Deep down, many victims in this insecure attachment style feel that they're not truly worthy of love because they secretly believe they're defective. And therefore, they unconsciously choose partners and close intimates. It could be friends, it could be workplaces, as well as intimate partners who are emotionally unavailable and will never connect with them in true intimacy. What's intimacy? Intimacy. I can be vulnerable and share with you my true self, warts and all, because I've accepted my true self, warts and all, and I'm with somebody else who can share their true self, warts and all. So the victim of a narcissist and a narcissist, if they're in a relationship, which is a hellscape, neither of them are whole. So this is why for the empaths, codependents, victims of narcissist, there is often a history of partners who are not emotionally available, who aren't whole. So you might have had addicts, people who cheat, even if they weren't the gaslighting, head-spinning, narcissistic version, they were still emotionally unavailable. And definitely narcissists come along as supremely emotionally unavailable. And you may have been through emotionally avoidant people who just pull back and run instead of show up. So in our healing, if our journey, if we are serious about becoming conscious, and becoming conscious is, I understand quantum law. I understand that I am the generative source of my own experience. And I understand that if I want to change myself, I need to change my life. And if I want to change myself, if I'm going to try to just do it logically with learning and research, I'm working with 5% of my capacity. But if I turn inwards and start healing my subconscious programs, which is the 95% that is running my life, my somatic, emotional, feeling centers and my heart, well, then I can change myself and become a new self and heal and completely change my life and no longer be vibrating in a 3D universe whereby me being not whole is bringing people who are also not whole, who are never going to tend to fixing this emotional unavailability. This is what I need to do between me and myself. So if we make it all about narcissists without recognizing the matching wounds in the quantum field that are happening inside of us, these unconscious programs are never going to be healed, and we don't get better. But when we do turn inwards and address the wounds at the root, the pain can end. What's stuck in survival and trauma gets liberated into relief, freedom, joy, gratitude, and creation. And our true lives begin. And I promise you. Okay, now you may say, Melanie, and I understand, because the victim perspective, and I understand it, I was there for years, and it can be really, really hard to shift in our bodies, and it's not something we can think ourselves out of. We've got to heal ourselves out of. But you might say, but Melanie, I'm broken, I'm too old, the narcissist put me in this position because of the abuse, like it's too late for me. And a lot of victims say that. I've seen people in their 80s turn it around. It's never too late. Or, you know, people might say, but Melanie, I was born into a family of narcissists. So how does this theory apply? If you look at life through a quantum and a spiritual lens, which I do, you will come to this realization. You are a soul in a body having separate and consecutive lifetimes to evolve yourself. You also understand the rules of the universe, meaning that nothing can happen to you unless there's a matching belief within you, for good or for bad. So therefore, if we've carried unresolved traumas, and we have, from lifetime to lifetime, you're going to be born into matching families and circumstances. And if these traumas are not healed and liberated, the patterns continue, not only into adulthood in this life, but also into subsequent lifetimes. I've had incredible proof of this. Before I became a quantum healer, I was a past life regression therapist. I even taught regression, past life regression. I can't tell you how many people, everybody really, I've witnessed people under deep hypnosis in regression describe the exact same trauma themes repeating from lifetime to lifetime, perfectly matching the experiences of their current life, just in a more modern day version in this life, and usually with the same people in different flesh suits, the same souls. And when they did the inner work to clear the trauma, these repeating experiences stopped, and they entered a new life trajectory where the pattern ended, the pain was gone. The pain was gone first, because that's another quantum law. Things don't come from the outside world to change your inside. You change your inside, and then the outside experience changes. And a new self and a new life began. So that's how the universe works. It responds to your inner universe. So it's all about making the unconscious wounds conscious. And how do we have a conscience and become conscious? Because you're not conscious without a conscience. And a conscience is self-reflecting, is saying, okay, now I know that person is horrible and they're terrible and they do disgusting things, and a lot of stuff they do on purpose. This is not excusing that at all. But when we become conscious, we have a conscience. We have a conscience, and our conscience is merely and magnificently the self-reflection to say, what in it within me that wasn't self-loving, that wasn't whole enough, that didn't lay boundaries, that knew intuitively but ignored that inner voice, our GPS, our God protection system. I went against myself. I stayed because of fear of security, fear of everything else apart from honoring my soul. And that's been our programming as well. So when we become honest, we can start working on the inner being. We can change the feeling through deep somatic, energetic, quantum healing work. And what happens is our thoughts change. Our thinking is about the trauma, where our head's trying to organize it and doesn't have the power to, and gets into the stinking thinking in the bandwidth of the trauma. But when we change the somatic experience inside of ourselves, and when we get space and it feels better, the brain, the neuron pathways literally shift instantly to reflect that. So we start having a new mind, new thoughts, which means new choices. And we literally become a new self living a new life. So here lies the greatest dichotomy about narcissists. Through the deepest darkness that they thrust us into, we get to mine our greatest gold, because the stuff that they trigger and bring up to the surface, it was already there. Whether you came into a family of narcissists, it was there from past lives. It was unresolved. And the wounds that are unresolved, they're our greatest Achilles heel. They're the things that are keeping us separated from our liberation and our true self. And the 4 pillars being solid within us somatically, which is love, approval, security, and survival. And when we're self-sourced through source, our higher self, our true frequency, our true birthright, then we're solid, we're whole, we're good. The narcissist in our life targeted the gaps we had there in self-love, in self-approval, in feeling secure in our body, in the world, and being able to survive emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. They target any of the parts of ourselves that are not whole. They truly do. They come along looking like the savior of those things. That's why we feel such an instant connection with them. Oh my God, I'm safe. We can exhale. They've got me, right? But then what happens is the script flips. They were never meant to be the savior. They were meant to be the messenger. And then we get trauma bonded to them. And this is so interesting in narcissistic abuse. When you're participating with something, trying to survive it, fix it, and change it, even though it is messing with your heart, your soul, your mind, your spirit, you're getting damaged and you get trauma bonded. And this can only occur when, rather than letting go and healing to our own wholeness, we're trying to hold that outer person responsible for changing to grant us our wholeness. Now, please know, and I'm going to say it again. Okay, just say truth in the chat if you're humble enough, conscious enough to understand this, because I promise you this is not victim blaming. This is giving you a path out of this. Hugely a path out of this. Because what happens with people that are victimized and traumatized, you either take the survivor path, which means that you're going to be stuck in the trauma and the victimization, or you take the alchemy path, which gives you the thriver path, which means that you are going to be a greater self than you ever could have been even before this experience, not despite this experience, because of this experience. So I'm talking about alchemy. So this is not victim blaming, it's empowerment. Let me know if this is resonating. Let me know if you're already on that path, because I know a lot of you thrivers are, that this is the path that you are determined and devoted to yourself to live. Okay. So we need to change our internal state. And if there are fractures and the outer evidence is showing that, it's like the expression, if you want to know what's going on in your inner world, have a look at your outer world. And there it is. And we can only change our inner world. We cannot change anything beyond your skin. You can't. You don't have the power to. You only have the power to change what's within your skin. And that's how we take our power back. So we can escape trauma bonds. We can heal, we can grow, we can evolve ourselves. We can actually elevate into a whole new reality of living quickly if we want to work on the subconscious mind, which is the body, which is the somatic, emotional, feeling self. And that's what quantum work does. That's why I love it. It saved my life. I tried everything else, the logical way, the research way, and I nearly died. When I went quantum, I healed incredibly in ways that I never even believed were possible. And I healed incurable breakdowns that I was told by the medical profession could never be cured. And I melted them away. I cured all of them. So we can do it now. You can start now. You can go the inward path to get out of this. You don't have to wait for the next 5 unconscious lifetimes, hoping that justice, accountability, or an outside savior, or even God is going to fix it for you through your prayers. Fixing it within us means working on the infinite intelligence within, the source within, the God within, which was Jesus's, Yeshua's true message, that source God is within. And that's where we work with it in the inner being. Source consciousness wants your highest and your best, doesn't want to punish you, doesn't want to keep you separated from that. But that consciousness loves you so much, it is unconditional, which is not what we had as children. It is unconditional. And it says, it doesn't step in, it doesn't intervene, it doesn't judge. It doesn't shame or blame you. It says, I love and adore you so much that whatever you are choosing to be, I will grant you more of that. So as soon as we choose to be conscious and we choose to start healing, the field starts granting us the miracles, the synchronicities, the inspirations, the support that are matching the support that we're having for our inner being. And it happens very, very quickly. So we release the trauma that was keeping us stuck, stalled, and re-traumatized, and we replace the old survival programs and patterns with source light, our true self, our higher self, the innate organic consciousness of the field, which is the God particle spark, which is higher timelines. And that's actually who you organically are without trauma. So you reintegrate, reset, remember who you truly are. That's what remember means, to come back together. And that's what become means. When you be it, then it can come. And we start co-creating consciously with our true power. Everything starts to change. So how do you know what needs to be healed within you to get out of this nightmare and start aligning with the life that you were born to live? The answer is so simple. It's looking you straight in the face. Exactly what hurts inside you the most right now in your body. The emotions that are the loudest, that are screaming, are the ones telling you which part of yourself is not in alignment with your highest and your best self. The self that carries the frequency of your true life and your soul aligned, fulfilled desires. What's hurting and screaming is out of resonance, out of sync with that self. And that's why it's hurting. And this pain that we've all been taught to disconnect from, go have a toasted cheese sandwich, go drink some alcohol, smoke a cigarette, do mindless scrolling on your phone, ring somebody, get on an abuse forum, start researching narcissists. We've been trained since little kids, go get your coloring book. I don't want to hear about it. Go watch TV, go play. So we've been taught to disconnect, and it doesn't go away. It haunts, it screams, and now it's so loud after narcissistic abuse. It's like an engine warning light on a motor, which is showing you exactly what needs healing. Now, the program problem was turning outward and disowning ourselves, splitting from ourselves in those moments. We were forced into trying to force something or somebody out there to fix the internal pain for us. But what happens in quantum law, any external savior that we go to with the internal traumas, they are going to be in the bandwidth of consciousness that we're making the choice from. Separation consciousness and from self-abandonment. So what we're going to choose is also going to abandon us. Does that make sense? So it doesn't work. So this is why the more frantic and traumatized and the more we cling and grasp and fight and plead and go back in, the more we get beaten up. It never works. So what is the solution? There's only one: turn inwards. You have to let go of the outside and turn inwards. If you want to change your life, you've got to change your inner being. So what is screaming inside you right now? That feeling that you feel in your solar plexus, the feeling that you feel in your heart, those feelings of desperation and powerlessness and addiction and just, they're terrible. What are those feelings? What are those beliefs? You know what they are? They are, I'm unlovable. I'm always going to be alone. I'm about to lose everything. I'll never be free. It could be nobody's coming. It could be, I feel like I'm going to die. And a lot of our survival programs feel from past lives that we've had in our energy field, when you get hit by a narcissist and they pull the pin on one of your biggest traumas, you literally feel like you're going to die. But what if? What if you could turn inward and tend to these traumas one at a time? You could load up the literal dense energy of the trauma and the accompanying belief systems. You could draw it out of your cells, load it up into a holding container. You could let it go out through the top of your head with a somatic visual release that you feel in your body, which is the language of the subconscious, which trains your subconscious to believe it's real. And you could imagine the light from your higher self, from your true desired reality, your God source connection, filling the place where that trauma was, bringing peace and wholeness. And what is a trauma that's been integrated, which in quantum terms is released and replaced with light? What does it become? Wisdom. And what does wisdom feel like? Peace, power, calm. It feels like a totally different timeline. What happens in wisdom? What happens in wisdom is you get the inspiration, the synchronicities, the connections, and the miracles that bring you more wisdom, which is peace, clarity, calm, and solution. So, what happens is when we start going down this path and your life starts shifting and changing, you realize that this actually wasn't just about getting relief, which we were hoping that the cheese sandwich, that the reading, the researching, even going to therapy and continuously talking about this, hanging out with friends, distracting ourselves, we were hoping to get relief. Narcissistic abuse, you can't get relief that way. This is a soul injury of our deepest fractures that we brought in from past lives that were deeply unconscious, that the narcissist targeted, smashed up to the surface, and made fully conscious. So we can't just get surface level situationship relief from this. It wasn't just about getting relief. We're chasing that initially, of course. This was about rewiring and reprogramming yourself literally. This was about facing, meeting, holding, and reprogramming the unconscious traumas of feeling unlovable, of not feeling whole, of trying to prove and earn love, of clinging to be loved by people that never had the capacity to, into the deep knowing that the goal was always wholeness and feeling loved by higher power, true source self, feeling the love between you and your inner being, your inner child, knowing your love, that you are love and you're no longer empty. You're whole. The goal was always wholeness. Because if you feel intrinsically whole, and we heal ourselves to get there, you feel loved, you feel chosen by all of creation, you feel at peace internally, regardless of your outer circumstances. So you start becoming a master of your life. You can choose your feelings, you can choose your wisdom, you can choose your choices from a place of wholeness that then signals your outer universe. You no longer make do. You no longer accept second, third, or much less best. You no longer feel like an empty shopper, a hungry person in a shopping center, filling your trolley full of junk food. You're no longer that person. And quantum law is so exact. The feeling, the frequency on the inside has to precede the change on the outside. Who you are being is what you're generating, and it's what you are receiving. Can you imagine the empowerment you would feel when you realize and live the truth that you are a quantum creator with the power to create your now and your future from the inside out? And you see, for most of us, even if we were spiritual, even if we were into self-development, it wasn't until we got shattered by narcissistic abuse and broken so open with our traumas fully activated, with the feelings of helplessness and powerlessness, and like we were going to die, like we were some little kid out in the middle of a desert, just with no hope, that we turned within. And when we turned within and did the quantum work, what we were able to discover was, I'm able to go free from my traumas and my old programs that I've carried for centuries. I'm able to start being a conscious creator with a conscience, which is, I have empathy for myself because I self-reflect. And therefore, I'm consciously creating my choices in the universe with what I'm creating for myself and life and others and the collective and the field. You become a really functional human. And narcissists aren't operating on that level. They become really displeasing to you. That person that you felt addicted to, that you felt like you couldn't live without, they actually feel quite repulsive. They're just not your reality in anymore. So this space, you're no longer a victim. You're no longer a victim of circumstances. You become a master of your destiny. And through alignment, you open yourself up to growth and experiences that are far greater than the frequencies that you were previously operating at when you had those glitches and things on board. So know this. Anything that you feel as a desire in your heart, and I'm not talking about an egoic desire, something that you want for you, you crave for you, it's true for you. Your soul, your source, and the field have it waiting for you, just waiting for you to be free of the limiting feelings, thoughts, beliefs, and choices that were on a lower frequency, all of your old programs that are keeping you separated from that true desire. So if you change yourself, you change your life. And it is so not true that you need the experience in order to love the experience. You become the experience. And you become the love, and then you have the experiences that you love. I honestly don't believe there is any more powerful catalytic experience for our evolution than the experience of a narcissist. Because you get dismantled. Your deepest wounds are front and center. They are so smashed up to the surface. Well, first of all, there's no way to miss them. But generally, there's no way to ignore them either. You cannot just get on with your life. Life can no longer go on as normal. And that is the point of personal catharsis. As long as we become conscious, we have consciousness with a conscience and self-reflect. So this is not so much what was done to me. This is what is it in me that is being signaled to heal as a result of this experience. That's consciousness. And then the unconscious starts becoming fully conscious. You're already on the path. And the opportunity is golden. Because think of it like this. A pearl comes out of a gritty shell. A butterfly, my most favorite metaphor in the whole world, comes out of a dark, sticky cocoon. What do diamonds come from? Intense pressure and heat. And this is you if you choose it. The most incredible people have come through out of a survivor consciousness into a thriver consciousness. That through this experience, I'm going to forge myself into my highest and my best self. And that didn't happen by accident. That happened through intention. But here it is. A lot of people will never face their internal pain, yet it's running their life and meeting them in the field constantly because they're not meeting it. And if we are brave enough to meet it at the quantum level, you will wonder why you never knew how to do that and you didn't start doing it years ago. Okay, so if we don't heal, it's the same. But this is the reality that your soul had for you. The reality is this happened for a reason. It's an actual turning point. And I hope that what I'm sharing today from my heart and my soul is talking to your heart and your soul. Those of you who are on the journey, I hope that this keeps inspiring you to remember this, because sometimes we do forget and we do need to remember and become conscious again. This was happening for us and not to us. And if it hadn't have been that person, from a soul contract evolution point of view, somebody else would have needed to come and deliver that message to get us out of our outer focus to our inner power to become masters of our life and masters of creation of our life. So if you're ready, I hope this inspires you. If you're ready to stop managing symptoms and keep researching narcissists and just hoping and praying that the pain's going to go away one day, or they're going to be held to account, or they're going to be sorry and fix it, or somebody else is going to come into your life to, fix it. I hope you understand now that that's not actually the journey. The journey is between you and you. And if you are ready to look at that at a deeper level, I can't recommend enough my Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Program, because it is the quantum program that I use to heal myself from the edge of complete annihilation to thriving. And thousands of other people have, where nothing else has helped to heal them. Okay, so all you need to do is have a look in the description and click the link for more information about that. And also know that if you do join NARP in our program, you don't have to heal alone. You have the Thriver mindset and the community holding you and your heart and your hands every step of the way so that you do thrive. And also you have a full money back guarantee. You have nothing to risk by trying this quantum process to heal and become a part of our community. All right, so I'd love to hear from you. Please put any questions or comments in the chat. Talk to me and let others know about, have you realized this? Are you ready to realize this? Do you want to let go of victimization? Are you sick to death of the pain that just doesn't seem to be going away? Do you sense there must be a deeper reason for all of this? Let me know in the chat and I'll get back to answering the questions. And until then, thank you for sharing this space and time with me. Please share, be brave enough to share this video, because there is a lot of information out there that is so the victim mindset, and people might criticize you for this and think it's victim shaming and want to stay stuck in their victimhood, but have the courage to share this video so that we can get the real truth out there. And I love you heaps. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.